everybody. So excited to have you. I see we have Joshua and Heidi here. We have Jake Gallen here. So I'm really excited to be hosting this panel. And I'm constantly wanting to educate people on what's happening in the crypto and NFT space. I think there's not as much information out there as there could be. And also it's confusing. There's when you're starting to research into this, there's so much information when you start to dive into it, but it can be confusing. And also it's very difficult to know who and what to trust. So I wanted to connect you with people that I feel are trustworthy, that I've connected with through podcasting, through my book, and through other people that are in this space. So much of this is networking connections and meeting others that are, knowledgeable and have experience. So I'll just start by doing introductions. And by the way, for anyone who's watching, there will be an opportunity for questions at the end, but you can also feel free to put any questions that are popping up in the chat as well. So I want to introduce Jake Gallen. Jake is a podcaster. We connected through podcasting. If you know me at all, that you know I'm a fanatic about podcasting. I love podcasting. And we connected before I actually moved to Las Vegas. And Jake hosts a podcast in Las Vegas called now it's called the Jake Gallen podcast, but it was called the Guest List podcast. He is a Las Vegas native. He is co-founder of Native Research, which is all about building business in the blockchain and crypto space. And he hosts these monthly meetups that are related to blockchain and crypto in partnership with UNLV and Blackfire Innovations. He's very connected here in Las Vegas and also is an NFT collector. And I would say an NFT maven. Still a new and growing space, but thank you so much, Jake. I'd love to just see if there's anything else you want to share, just kind of in an introduction for yourself.
Yeah, no, thank you. That was actually an incredible introduction. Yeah, in terms of I guess the collecting or investing side, most of my domain is within what's called the historical NFTs or vintage NFTs. So NFTs that were minted 2018 all the way to the first NFT that was April 21st, 2011, which is a domain, bitcoin.bit. I guess my claim to fame is that I sold NFTs at Sotheby's auction house in October. Actually, I had no idea what Sotheby's even was until they said that they were the world's largest auction house. So that was that was kind of a cool experiment. And I'm also going to, I haven't announced it yet, but I'm going to be a speaker at NFT Miami April 1st through the 3rd. So if anybody's
awesome.
going down, if anyone's going down there, come check out the historical NFT panel.
I love that you didn't know about Sotheby's before getting involved in
NFTs.
No,
They slid in the DMs and asked me about selling mooncats, and I was just like, "What is Sotheby's?" And then I went on the website, and it's like established 17 something. I was like, "Oh, these are big people."
Yeah, that's one of the things that's really fascinating is the sort of old, art house gallery artist scene is somewhat separate from the NFT community, but there's starting to be more overlap as it moves forward. But yeah, I find that really fascinating and that's actually one of the things I love about the NFT space is it's breaking through a lot of the old structures and that you don't have to. But I think that's hilarious that you were the first time you heard about it was to sell an NFT, and you had a pretty big sale. I know because I interviewed you for my book and for the podcast. Do you mind sharing how much you sold your biggest NFT for?
Yeah, so the biggest one actually wasn't at Sotheby's, but I've had 2 6-figure sales so far. One in August, I sold a Genesis Mooncat for 70 ETH, which was about 205,000 at the time. And then Sotheby's collectively at the end of October was a little over 100K at the end of the day. So those are the 2 big sales from that collection. Hopefully more to come. It's a weird and crazy space, but every day you learn that there's something new, something more historic, things are being uncovered, new things are being created. It's chaos, as most people know.
Yeah, and I feel like I met you, Jake, at a really interesting time because you were focusing in your podcast and you were kind of crypto trading, but then you transitioned into really focusing on NFTs when I knew you.
Yeah, I've been in crypto since late 2016, early 2017, and always wanted to be involved with it, but didn't really want to work for anybody. So just stuck with the investing, trying to learn and consume as much knowledge. And back in 2016, 2017, there was no information about anything. It's very similar to the NFT space now. Currently, it's really, you're just kind of relying on some trustworthy individuals to share information and details on how to even go about it. So yeah, started the podcast, Vegas based, right when the pandemic happened, and finally the worlds of all these different things I've been doing merged together in 2021 when we started doing the Blackfire meetups, and the Sotheby's auction house really helped propel my personal brand. The Twitter account went now is up to like 7,000 followers, and have really like built my own brand within the space to kind of exude different ideas and perspectives on everything, even outside of just historical NFTs. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and still currently trying to build that. Just a lot more opportunities out there.
Yeah, it's a really exciting time to be in this, and it's changing so fast. That's why it's really important to network, connect, to stay abreast of all this stuff, because like literally 6 months is like eons in this space, and things can change in a moment with regulation, with new technology, with different coins, with different platforms that are coming out or going away. So yeah, it's a good time. And yeah, I'm just amazed with Jake, because I feel like I've only known you like, let's see, probably a little bit less than a year and a half, and I feel like things have already changed so much in that amount of time.
So much. Yeah, I'm just blessed to be here and to network. It's a great time to be within the NFT space. I think OpenSea just crossed a little over 1 million wallets. So you're saying maybe 1.5 million people in the entire world trading NFTs or even experimenting in the space, when there's 300 billion people who own some cryptocurrency. So early. A lot of opportunity, a lot of niches to fill, and it's really cool to see.
Yeah, I think sometimes people, when they're getting into this space, feel like, oh, it's too late, or it's if I'm not already in it, I shouldn't even try. But it's still really early days, both in the crypto space and then NFT. And the reason I did this as an NFT and crypto panel is you do have to know at least a little bit about crypto in order to invest at NFTs at this point. I do think that's going to change at some point, where there's going to be platforms where you can just pay more easily with your credit card. You don't even have to know about crypto. But at the current moment, you really have to have at least a baseline understanding of cryptocurrency to really get involved in NFTs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the CEO of Coinbase, Brian Armstrong, believes that Coinbase NFT marketplace will eventually outpace their cryptocurrency exchange in terms of volume and revenue. So if one of the largest exchanges in the world believes that, and a lot of other people do, a lot of room to grow. And like you said, most people will be NFT first and crypto second.
Yeah, and also just looking at Robinhood, where it's a huge platform for kind of newbie people getting into the crypto space, and they pretty much, because of Doge, suddenly like most of their transactions were Doge. Mm-hmm. And crypto, which they were a stock platform. So yeah, things are changing rapidly, and there's a lot of adoption happening, which is exciting. So I also want to introduce both Joshua and Heidi Gilman, and they are very influential, I think, in the influencer space in terms of NFTs, and highly involved in NFT the movie, which premiered at Sundance, and also both artists, and they have one of the youngest, I believe, NFT artists as their son, Gunnar, which is really cool. I've met him on a different panel and event. So would love to just turn over to you guys to just add anything else that I didn't in your introduction.
Yeah, well, congratulations, Jacob. Like,
fantastic.
Thank you.
Is like so inspiring. We're like, Sotheby's is like, he's an artist. He's been an artist for 12 years, and that's all we've ever like dreamed about.
Yeah.
And so like, you're inspiring.
You're like selling it, not even knowing. That's crazy. It just shows you how life is so beautiful. You know what I mean?
When it's meant to be, it's supposed to, right? Like
so
things come in. So to kind of give you guys a little backstory, Josh came home last March. In fact, I have it in my Snapchat. I made him a big old sign that said, "Congratulations on quitting your job," because he quit his job working for the church.
Yeah.
It was 9 years, and he was like, "We're going full force.
I'm just gonna paint."
And I was like, you know what? Like, this is the time. And then that's when Beeples sold their $69 million NFT, and we were like,
we should look into that.
Yeah, let's look a little closer. And you're right, Laura, like everybody, you kind of get like overwhelmed and you're like, I don't know enough about it, that people don't get in. But the wonderful thing about crypto and NFT is that if you just show up to events, people are just so willing to share their knowledge, because the more you know, the more everybody else knows. The more I know, the more we all know, you know?
Yep.
You know?
Exactly.
But so we got into NFTs and we did some personal developing coach class. So not only did Josh say like, hey, I want to quit my job, but like I need to spend like $5,000 to do this personal developing class. We're like, oh, okay, I got to like no longer like we're just living in like this stable lifestyle. Like I'm here for it. Let's go on an adventure. And my dream is always to have been doing a documentary. And I had this personal revelation, like film everything, document everything, Heidi, because you're going to kick yourself. If you know what I know, you're going to kick yourself that you didn't record. And then we met the producer of NFT, the movie, who's located right here in the Salt Lake Valley. And he was like, come to Miami. There's going to be like, it's called Shizcoin event. And we'll do an interview with you guys there. Me and Josh leave the restaurant, we book flights, and then we're like, oh crap, we have kids.
We need someone to watch them.
Like, oh shoot. So then grandma like stays the day and she watches them. But we flew to Miami and it changed our whole life. Meeting people in the crypto community and the blockchain, it was like we were home.
Yeah.
We were like,
it felt good.
These are our people. This is our tribe. Because there is just that we're sick of the crap. And it's time to change some things, and it's time to look out for each other. Like no more bystander effect, like somebody else is going to do it. Like we're here for it. And everybody that's here, even on the call or that will watch it, like if you're interested, just go and look, contact us, like contact anybody, because we're all so willing to want it. Wag me.
Yep.
What is it? I always forget what wag me.
We're all going to make it.
There it is.
Yep, we're all going to make it.
So then we started doing NFT the movie, and we've met over 44 artists, musicians, authors, filmmakers, technologists that are on the forefront of the crypto and the NFT space, and they're changing the world. And now we get to go back to Miami and do some follow-ups. We'll be on stage with the Miami Apes doing a little interview. It's a panel of 70 Bored Ape members that got together, made a DAO.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be amazing. So we're going back to these projects that like nobody
that we
knew
started
of.
With, yeah.
And now they're like, I mean, it's been a year. Like you said, in a year,
everything changes.
So much if you're open to it. So anything you know about crypto and NFT, or even just about life, delete it. Like now everything is possible.
It's all changed.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating to me, and a lot of people are surprised that I'm in the crypto and NFT space, but I felt pretty early on that we're going through this sort of spiritual shift and evolution where there's this decentralization happening, where it's no longer about, oh, you need to get your spirituality through a church. It can be a way to do it, but you don't have to. You don't have to go through a banker for your finances. You don't have to go through a publisher to get your work out into the world. You don't have to go through a gallery to get your work sold or connect with fans and those who would support you. So I feel like this is happening in all the different spaces, and it's part of us, stepping into our sort of divine path and our ability to create and have the life that we want in so many different ways. So I think it's really exciting times, and it's just like dive in. And I love what you said about just going to the events. That's my biggest piece of advice for anyone who is listening here is like, join the groups, go to the events. And I do feel like the in-person events are really especially fabulous. And even like Jake, we met in an online forum for podcasters, and then I came to Vegas and we connected, and then I started getting involved in the local community here, and it's been so important to have both these online connections as well as the in-person.
I love that you're connecting spirituality with crypto, because it totally is. Like there is something to say about when you take the power back, that you feel more connected to your higher self, power. Oh, and we didn't get accepted to Sundance last year.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I just wanted to clarify, but we will be doing like a short film. They accepted us, like Sundance was kind of like, wait, no, kind of to you're before your time, but Main Street was like, come do like.
Oh, that's what it is. You were going to have your premiere there or a screening there. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then they got canceled, and I think it was
everything did.
It was
yeah.
design though. It was so perfect because I think it made Sundance go, wait a second, are we doing film festivals all wrong? Because with NFT the movie, like we're going to be distributing our movie as an NFT. And in our NFT movie, there will be NFTs. And in those like movies, we're going to be doing side documentaries that you can buy
as
like,
an NFT.
Like no rules exist in our world anymore. We're like, we'll do it all.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love about this space is it's taken away this idea that you have to be vetted somehow by some, external force, and also turn the sort of rules of what is good art or what people appreciate on its head, because a lot of the really expensive NFTs are these like pixelated, like not even that sophisticated
piece. Yeah.
And it just, but at the same time, people love them, and isn't that what's important? So I think it's just this fascinating thing that we're all witnessing and going through at the time.
It really is. It's magical. So join in.
Totally. And I want to say too, for anyone who's watching this live, that this will also be released to people who want to watch it later, and I will likely also release it as a podcast with your guys' permission, just because that's honestly where my biggest audience is, and I love that it continues to reach people, not just when we record it, but afterwards as well.
Right. Well, and that's like what I love about the NFT space is it's historic. Like you had my heart, Jacob, when you're like, I like historical pieces. Like the only reason I minted my 5-year-old's art is strictly for me. I was like, this is a moment in time, and I'm gonna maybe, like, we went to a metaverse event last night that blew my mind, that they were like, we're gonna have these AIs that will take on these personifications and be able to like replicate us. And we'll be able to talk to my son, my 5-year-old son, maybe in the future. Like when we're having a bad day, I'm gonna be like, hey, I'm gonna go like talk to the 5-year-old.
VR, yeah, it's just so awesome.
But it's historic. Like these are moments in time that we get to capture, and they'll be here forever and ever and ever and ever. So it's so exciting.
It is an exciting time, and I feel like this is really timely right now to talk about all this as well, because of some of the things that are coming up in the world and in government in regards to owning property, having money and access to assets that are ours and can't be interfered with by the government. And you can believe whatever you want politically. This is not about a particular party or ideology, but I just attended the Unconfiscatable conference here in Las Vegas, and and it's a big thing right now where literally governments can seize your assets. You don't even have to be accused of something. They can literally just come in and take it. And so I think this is really especially important right now. And also with the historic inflation that's happening, where money is literally being devalued and losing value, rather quickly, that we have other options. And so I'd love, Jay, for each of you guys to just share a little bit about your thoughts on that in the sort of crypto and NFT space.
Oh man, I have so many thoughts on this. It goes back to Satoshi's original vision, right? That's why Bitcoin was created, was at the behest of the 2008 financial crisis, where the rich gets richer and the poor gets poor. The corporations get bailed out, even though it was at their fault for why everyone got put in this situation. So what Satoshi, whoever that may be, envisioned is happening and rolling out exactly the way that they speculated on it. Today, I think it was today or yesterday, the G7 and the United States just seized about $600 billion of Russian sovereign wealth across multiple countries. And regardless of what your opinion is on Russia, like that just shows that that the US and a bunch of these countries have true control over the dollar system. And now they're kind of poking holes in it, right? So they're basically just, if you look at Bitcoin's run off nodes. The dollar system is very similar. All of the cash registers, all of the banks are all essentially nodes. Now they're just poking holes in the system, saying Russia is now not on the dollar system. somebody's going to have to cover that $600 billion. So now eventually what's going to happen is we're going to print more money, and everything that we saw happen last year or 2 years ago, where we printed 40% of dollars that ever existed since 2020 with an 8% inflation rate, it's only going to get much worse. So a lot of countries are now going to turn to alternate monetary systems, whether that's Bitcoin. Russia has announced that they're going to use China's CBDC, which is their cryptocurrency. So the dollar system is eventually going to decay. I don't think it'll disappear completely, but you're going to see, we saw today, actually, at the time it's recording, Ukraine also just legalized Bitcoin as legal tender. So they're the second country now to do that.
Oh, I didn't even see that yet. That's so interesting.
The president just signed the order today. So that's number two. There's a lot of South American countries that also want to follow suit to adopt the Bitcoin standard. And we've never seen this in society, of a truly decentralized monetary system. And then even going further down the rabbit hole with like Ethereum, and it still has a lot of kinks to work out, but then like truly decentralized ownership over digital assets, which has never been experienced before. That's what makes NFTs so powerful. And the one thing, even in this like global macro scale, from an investor standpoint, NFTs have actually held up really well comparative to a lot of the altcoin markets in terms of value. So we're seeing now that millennials and Generation Z would rather store their value in internet memes that are in form of NFTs or metaverse land. So it's really it's really bringing the idea and the question of what is value to the mainstream, and that's the beautiful part of cryptos, that everything's going to have there's a centralized app and a centralized entity for something, and there's going to be a decentralized counterpart for it by the end of the decade. And that all started with the vision of just having a truly scarce and decentralized monetary units. That's Bitcoin.
Yeah, and just a couple things I want to say for those who might not be familiar. Satoshi wrote a white paper. No one really knows who Satoshi is, or if it's even one person or a group of people. Some people have said, oh, it's me or it's that person. But at any rate, it's there's this white paper, which basically was the start in the theory of Bitcoin, and then it was created. And this whole thing with Russia and Ukraine is it's pushing forward a lot of changes in finances that I think I've seen coming. And I did a post about how, sort of putting all the sanctions on Russia was essentially going to cause the pulling away from the dollar, and that it was not a popular post. A lot of people did not like that, but I'm like, look, that Russia's allied with China. So again, I'm not saying I want this to happen, but like we're seeing this play out now, that it's and Ukraine getting into Bitcoin, fascinating. It's a really interesting time in this space. But regardless, I think we all need to educate ourselves, because finances, our resources, our assets are a lot of our stability and peace of mind and safety for our families. And this space is changing so rapidly. So I personally feel like it's a good time anymore to just have your money in the bank and feel like that's going to be a secure way to have your assets.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'd love to move over to Josh and Heidi and see what you guys have to say about all this.
And just like with the bank thing, like we remodeled our kitchen and we went to go get money out, and it was during the pandemic. So they first stopped us at the door and was like, hey, do you have an interview or like an appointment? And we're like, I just need to get cash out.
I got my money in there.
And then they were like, well, you can only get like 2,500 out. We needed to get like 10 grand. And so it kind of like put a red flag in my mind that I was like, wow, this is like, I can't even access my money when I want to. So hearing about crypto, I think people that when you hear about it, listen to your inner design, listen to how you feel inside about it, because that's what's going to guide you in this space. Like there's a lot of people that are like, I'm so like XRP, or I'm an Ethereum girl, or whatever. And I think all of them have their benefits. There's, like you said, so many and so much to learn. Just do your research. Like when you hear of a coin, like just go and research it, or like find some YouTube channel and make sure you trust that person. Make sure that they have a community, like what's their value, and like who's buying that coin, and So that's like my biggest advice, because there's so much to learn and know. Like we don't claim to be experts because there's
just
so
so
much. But like, just find something you align with and then educate yourself. Because there's, like Jacob said, nowadays, like there's so much research. There's so many things out there that can teach you.
Yeah, it's happening rapidly. Things are changing. And also, there's so much in this space that I think the most important thing is to dive in and start to educate yourself. And then you'll find your niche. You'll find the area that you gravitate towards. And I don't think anyone could be expected to know everything about all, you know, all NFTs, all altcoins, you know, Bitcoin, Maximalist, you know.
Yeah.
But you just go in, start to learn, and then you'll find what in this space you are drawn to and what feels like it's a fit. And then also it can change over time as well. So like when Jake got involved, I know he and I, you know, invested in Dogecoin relatively early on, and you know, and now he's more into NFTs. And
like, was it before Elon even tweeted? Was it
I had started purchasing Dogecoin in 2019.
Oh wow.
And that was kind of like my big win to help me quit my job and pursue crypto full time. I started crypto's primary communication platform is on Twitter. So if you're not on Twitter and crypto, like you're missing most of the information. And crypto kind of pioneered the idea of like meme marketing, where most crypto protocols, right? It's a protocol. So there's people who can market the protocol, but there's no one actively working for the protocol, right? It's independent, it works for itself. So Bitcoin was built off of memes. That's kind of how you get all the retweets and the favorites and kind of get the exposure. So then Dogecoin was created in 2013, and that was kind of the same idea. They put Dogecoin on the NASCAR. That was kind of like the big meme marketing and into the real world. And so when I got into crypto and started seeing that, I had the opinion that if the world, the regular world, ever figured this out, it would absolutely explode. And it did. It actually went way past my expectations, like completely way farther than I ever anticipated it, which is awesome. But memes are an effective. There's a quote on crypto Twitter. It's called like "seize the memes of production" instead of "seize the means of production," because in the digital world where crypto is going, it's all about memes over means, because there is no tangible infrastructure for it. So memes kind of like run the world. They could be emotions, they can be some sort of like statement, they can be an opinion. And this is why they tie so well into NFTs, is now that you can pay the person who's creating the memes directly without having somebody get ripped off and have their watermark taken off, or all the different kind of things that people do on the internet to copy people's work.
one other thing I wanted to point out, because I think it was you, Jake, talking about how the NFTs have held their value better than a lot of other things right now, a lot of other types of assets. And I want to mention that my sort of intro into a lot of this world was because I had these psychic clients. And so for those who don't know, I'm a psychic for a living. That's my main work. I teach classes and I have high-end clients, and these were hedge fund investors, and they had invested in Bitcoin early on. So it was like a whirlwind, wild experience for me. We were going and staying in these very expensive places and having these just wild experiences. But you know where they were investing? Art and water rights.
Oh,
wow. And so, and that's what they were telling me. This was like 2016. So this was, you know, before a lot of things shifted. But nevertheless, I think that art as a whole appreciates and holds its value better than most things. And now that we have the digital aspect with NFTs, it sounds like that's coming to bear as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you look historically, Bitcoin kind of gets the comparison of digital gold, because gold has historically been a store of value for millennia. But what has also been a store of value for millennia has been art. And a lot of people kind of look past that. And so that's, I think, another reason why a lot of these one-of-one pieces of NFTs or some of the more sought-after collectibles are really holding value, because historically they've also been a store of value for a very long time.
Yeah, it's just really fascinating. Great time to be getting into this space. So, Jake, I'd love to just start with you and ask what is happening now specifically in the NFT space that you think people should be aware of? Any trends? I mean, you definitely have your your finger
Yeah.
on what's happening currently more than I do. So, would just love to hear that.
Yeah. So when I went last year was by far the PFP kind of thing where your Twitter avatar was basically the equivalent of like a digital Rolex. So people were flexing their Bored Ape or their CryptoPunk or their Mooncat or whatever as their profile picture. And some of these are literally worth millions of dollars. So it's basically the digital version of that. And it was a very primitive form of NFTs as art and collectibles. But now what we're seeing is hints of utility being experimented and showing a little bit of signs. Like music NFTs have caught a little bit of tailwinds. They're still trying to find the product market fit, but they're getting a lot more traction. We're seeing things like access tokens and IP is starting to become a little bit more popularized because of Gary Vee's project, VeeFriends. For those who don't know, Gary Vee is like one of the most famous entrepreneurs in the world. He created a project last year called VeeFriends, where every NFT represents a ticket 3 years to his VCon event, but then also within that collection, there's about 500 different NFTs that represent IP pertinent to Gary Vee. So like one is called FaceTime Ferret, where you get to go on FaceTime with Gary Vee, Podcast Panther, and a really cool one that I really like, which is called Empathy Elephant. Obviously, Gary Vee, like his big brand is wine. That's how he got very famous, Empathy Wines. So if you own that Empathy Elephant, then you could brand your own wine within its own collection. And we've seen now a lot of different entrepreneurs kind of follow suit and experiment with these type of ideals. So those are IP and access. There's an event I'm going to Vegas this weekend at Area 15, which is called the first ever token gated event. So we'll see actually what that is. It means, is it actually a buzzword, or is there some sort of NFT gated access within the event itself? One of one ARC is always going to be there. I think I've seen now a lot more individual artists starting to catch a lot more attention. Xcopy being one of the more famous ones outside of Beeple. They've been there since the beginning. And then Metaverse Land. I think there's no doubt in anybody's mind that this seems to be like a very obvious trend. I do think, though, it is becoming quite inflationary, because technically you can have a deflationary or static land within one metaverse, but you can create as many metaverses as you want. So Bored Apes actually came out and said that they're creating their own metaverse. They're seeking to raise $200 million from 200,000 plots of land. A lot of this has caught the NFT space, I wouldn't say by surprise, but there's a lot of debate on whether this is good or bad for the space. So Metaverse Land, music NFTs, and then access tokens and IP, I think are like 3 big trends for this year that we're seeing pop up.
Great, thank you. And I just put in the chat, Bored Ape Yacht Club is one of the highest valued set of NFTs. So in case you haven't heard of them.
And they actually just recently bought the IP for CryptoPunks, which was notably the king for a long time. So you're seeing now in a overall macro bear market for crypto, we're seeing consolidation. And now we're seeing consolidation at the top of a Web3 era, which I don't think has ever happened. So that's going to be something very important to watch. IP rights has been a very, very large debate within the NFTs. Do you actually own it? Do you have the commercial rights to it? We know in the I just call it the Web 2 world. In the Web 2 world, although you can own a souvenir of Mickey Mouse, you actually can't use that as commercial use. You can't brand it. You can't make any money off of it. In the NFT world, most of these people who have been in CryptoPunks for 4 or 5 years, these CryptoPunks are now worth 300,000 and up. They have branded themselves based off of that CryptoPunk, so they want to have the rights to commercially use that to make money off of, and make coffee companies, or you can make Punk 4125 handbags and merch and all these different things. Larva Labs, who originally created CryptoPunks, was not giving them commercial use. So Yuga Labs, who created Bored Apes, came in, bought the IP. We don't know the number. We think it's probably close to $500 million.
Wow.
and has granted the CryptoPunk owners full commercial use over their CryptoPunks. So the IP and branding within NFTs, or I like to say it's called bringing the NFTs to life, which is what's cool. Like I see NFT movies, because that was a hot topic within NFT NYC when I was there. Was now we're getting past this primitive phase of like 2D PFP avatar kind of ideas, and now these companies or these devs are now taking the NFT projects and turning them into literature, TV series, movies, music, things that you see in the Web2 world, to bring them to life and to bring them to even more of the mainstream audience. So that's also like a really big trend as well.
Great. And for those who don't know Gary Vee, I just thought I'd say a bit about him. So I believe his last name is Franz Vanderchuck, but people that are into Gary Vee are really into Gary Vee.
It's a cult.
It really, no, it's fascinating to me because I know about him. I'm not super into him. I mean, I obviously admire what he's created, but like I have a friend who has $1 million worth of Gary Vee NFTs. I mean, and she did not spend that much for them. I mean, let's just say she's, if she were to sell them now, she's made a good profit, but I don't think she's going to sell them because she is really likes Gary Vee, but he has a massive following and he's been very good about creating community. And that's one of the cool things is I think that's a bit different than some of the other spaces within crypto and also even within the art world. Is there's this, like, it's almost like you're in a club, or it's like you become a part of this community if you're a fan or if you own this particular type of NFT.
Yeah, the floor for VeeFriends is 15 ETH. So you're saying it's about $60,000 and there's over 10,000 of them. That shows the conviction of those people in his community. They're just like, I'd rather just hold on to it because I support him. And now he's doing series 2 here pretty soon. But at NFT NYC, I was with him. I went to one of his events. When he walks by, everyone gets quiet and just stares at him like Jesus is walking by. It was wild. It was wild to watch.
It's interesting because I think in the mainstream people don't really know who he is, but like if you are a fan of him, it's like people are super fans. They're not just like, oh, I like that guy. It's pretty incredible, and he has a really large influence. And that's the cool thing about this digital space now is you don't have to be like a mega star like Michael Jackson or something to make a really good living, to have a really strong community that you create for yourself with whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah, I believe that. Sorry, I believe that there was a book that came out. I forget who the author was saying that in the digital space, if you have 1,000 active community members, you can live like a very strong life based off of that. If you have 1,000 people that donating $100 per year off a subscription model or whatever, that's $100,000, and it's easy to live. So you don't have to be these like macro influencers.
Absolutely. I don't have a massive email list, a couple thousand, but I have I would say a close group of those that connect with me. And yeah, I make a good living. And I have one of the guest experts in my 6-month psychic training program. She has an email list that's even smaller than me. I think it's like 1,500. I mean, I know email is kind of like old school, but it's still, the way that a lot of entrepreneurs operate. And she has a multiple 7-figure a year business. It's like this, you don't need this like massive following in order to be successful. So Josh, you are an artist. And so I think it's cool to have the sort of collector perspective and then the NFT artist perspective. So I'd love to share, if you can share your experience with starting as an NFT artist, any tips for those who are interested in creating this for themselves.
Definitely. So with Gary Vee, because I follow him too, when he decided to go all in on NFTs, that was our cue to really look deep into that. But as an artist, when I quit my job, it was like, how else can I, sell my art? And so at that time, galleries were, closed. People weren't going to them. So we decided, let's build a gallery, our own, in virtual land, and see how that works. So that's kind of how we first started. And my art was selling in these virtual galleries, and it just blew my mind that someone would purchase a painting without really seeing it. And so, well, they could see it, but just through their VR.
Not in person. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's just kind of the start. And then so we decided to after we made the art, we're like, okay, we're going to turn them into NFTs. And so now we have combined the physical piece, and then within that physical piece, we have you're able to scan it with your phone, and then that NFT will pop up. And in that NFT, you'll be able to place the art from your phone on, you know, a wall, and you can show your friends. And so that's kind of how we started, and that's kind of where we are now when it comes to my art.
Yeah, I own one of Josh's pieces. It's in my
Yeah.
living room. It's not behind me, so I can't show you. But no, first of all, I really believe in supporting artists and creators, and I love having something that's unique. And that's something that is very cool about the NFT space is you have this, you know, one of one, or, you know, even if there's multiples, a lot of times there's only one that's exactly that particular way, you know, so,
Yeah.
and it's the rarity that helps give that value, and the uniqueness that gives that value. I mean, we can get a reproduction Picasso or Van Gogh or whatever. And I'm not saying that there's not a beauty in that, but I love the ability to have something that's very special and unique, and also that's been touched by a creator in this way.
Most definitely. And you know, because the metaverses right now are very low end, there isn't a lot of metaverses that really are bringing the caliber of what it could be. And so, I mean, that's going to happen in the next 1 or 2, 3 years. We're going to see metaverses. And now, I mean, there's two different kinds. There's the DeFi ones, and then there's like the Facebook ones, right? And we want to focus more on giving the power back to everyone else. And so the DeFi metaverse versus, I think, are very important, just because you can have that power back. You can make money and not have someone try to take it, or you know, or scared that they're going to close it down. I feel like that's really important. But when that starts to happen, then the metaverses will really have some utility behind it, and everyone will be able to do it.
So I think what you're talking about is the ones that are decentralized versus like they're owned by
owned by
company. Like Facebook. Yeah,
because they will still
Mhm.
use the USD, or you know, that kind of stuff, where the DeFi ones are, you know, no one can touch that, you know, unless they have your seed phrase. And so I feel like that's really important to be in a metaverse like that.
Yeah, I think also anytime there's an external agency that has control over something, you know, you can lose it. I see this all the time with people, you know, they get locked out of their Facebook, or they get locked out of Instagram, or it gets hacked. This is happening more and more, and then they lose access to their fans, followers, all their data. An author friend that I know, I don't know if you guys know her, Jenny James, because she's in similar area to you, Josh. But she's an author, screenwriter. She has, I think, 50 books out now. She's had, I think, 4 films produced. Very prolific writer, but at some point she just lost her Facebook. Like someone hacked into it and she just lost it, you know? And I mean, that's in a case of like an external party, but also the company can just decide, like the company can just say, oh, you're banned, you're deplatformed, you're, you know. And so I think the decentralization aspect is very important, to have at least a presence in some decentralized applications and platforms in this day and age, for either because of hackers, or because the organization or the company itself that has that platform makes a decision and you're out, or you no longer have access, or they just remove it, period. Maybe it's not about just you, it's just like they just decide to discontinue that particular whatever.
Yeah, you can apply what's happening today to the centralized metaverse. Let's say Facebook, they had 4 billion active accounts, so they have more than half of the world on their metaverse that everybody's using. And now there's 2 countries who go to war, and they just delete all of the Russians who are using this metaverse that the majority of the global population is on. It's a very concerning kind of idea, because we already see this happening with the US censoring Russia from US dollars. But then you can also just completely delete them from the digital world, where the majority of people are going to be living the majority of their lives. It's very concerning. And also, you don't know what Facebook is, or Meta now that they're called, you don't know what they're going to do with your data. We thought that like Cambridge Analytica was a terrible thing. Imagine now they can track your biometrics, they can track your heart rate, they can track your eye movements. So anytime you walk into a room, the first three places you look will be ads, because they know exactly the percentage and the rate that your eyes are moving within each room. It could be used for good reasons, or it could be used for bad reasons. So what a lot of users within crypto right now, new entrants, I could say, they prefer permissionless over decentralization. And then you don't realize that you need decentralization until it's actually needed for a situation like today.
Yeah, just in looking at what's happening, for example, in Canada in recent events where there was this truck convoy. And again, this is not a political statement of whether you like or agree or disagree, of just talking about physically what happened. So there's this truck convoy and protesters regarding COVID lockdowns and rules and restrictions. And what the Canadian government did is they froze the assets of the people that were protesting and demonstrating, and the people that donated money, that's the part where I was like, oh my God, this is getting really crazy. Where if you literally, gave money to the GoFundMe, they froze your bank account. And then I saw a screenshot of this where there was, I can't remember which app, but it was one of the exchanges that was a decentralized exchange, and they showed that there was a Canadian government official asking for basically their client list, and they were like, we don't have that, we don't have anything to give you, and therefore we cannot give it to you. And it was like, this is really important, because I think most people feel that they are safe, or they have certain rights, and now we're seeing, well, things are a little bit more gray. So I think it behooves all of us to learn more about this, for whether it's from the government or private control, like Jig, what you're talking about, where they're tracking certain things that maybe we don't want them to track.
Yeah, we saw in America too that the government asked a bunch of cryptocurrency exchanges to censor transactions from Russian IP, and the majority of them actually said no. And also this happened with Elon Musk. They asked Elon Musk to censor Russian IP as well, and from the Starlink system and a few of his other businesses. And he actively went to Twitter and said, no, I'm refusing to do it. So that's cool that we live in a country that you can express these kind of freedoms, where the government can't expressively demonstrate control over you. But in places like China, if the government comes in and says something, it's forced. There's no other way around it. So this is why we get to have these kind of conversations, to show that things may seem bad here, but in other countries where there's an oligarchy, or there's communism, or extreme control from authoritarianism, they have it in a far worse situation. And we shouldn't just completely censor them because of their dictator who's making very terrible decisions.
Yeah, and again, things can change. So I just think it's important for all of us to get understanding and awareness of this, and to protect our assets, and make sure that, I guess the way I would say it is, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Make sure that you're protected, and you have assets in various forms. Josh, do you have anything you'd like to add to any of this?
Well, I think going back to what you were just saying, for them to put a stop on the assets showed who they really are, and made a great example of why we should all research and learn about what crypto can really do, because the governments are not afraid to just shut it all down, right? And if you don't want to be a part of that, if you don't want that to affect you, then yeah, find a way, learn, research, ask, because I'm sure everyone has someone around them that is in this space. It's time to really learn, and let's get this bigger than what it is now.
Yeah, as I was attending this unconfiscatable conference, which is basically, it's a Bitcoin maximalist conference.
Yep.
If you don't know what a Bitcoin maximalist is someone who feels like within the crypto space, Bitcoin is it. Like, they don't care about Ethereum, they don't care about Doge, they don't care about anything else. They basically think that Bitcoin is it and the most important one. And I do feel like Bitcoin is very valuable and important in this space, but there's lots of different opinions. I'm not saying that that's the the right opinion or not. I personally also like meme coins because I just like memes, like
Yeah.
Jeff was talking. And it's fun. And I believe that entertainment is valuable. So to me, it's not just about, does it have an application, does it have a use, but also does it bring joy? Yes. Okay. That's useful to me. But at any rate, that's a big focus within the sort of Bitcoin maximalist community, is this protection of assets. So I'd love to just see if there's any questions. You can feel free to put it in the chat, or if you want to turn your mic on, you can. And while we're doing that, I just want to share that experts like these are my guest experts in my new 12-week cryptocurrency and NFT course. And it starts next week. It doesn't close for a couple weeks after that. Regardless of what you do, though, I just encourage everybody to just dig in, to get into community, to educate themselves, to attend events, to network, because that's really where you're gonna learn. And I swear, you guys, so much of this happens from connections. Like you learn, even going to Unconfiscatable, which I was like, great. I heard about that from Joyce Chow, which I know, Josh, Joyce, who's a mutual friend and contact. And I'm in Las Vegas, and somehow I still hadn't heard about this conference that was happening here in the place where I live. You hear about these things from people in the community. So I'm putting in the chat the website for my 12-week cryptocurrency and NFT course. And you can also go to my website, powershour.biz, and then under the courses, you could just find a 12-week cryptocurrency course. So feel free to reach out to me if you have questions. My email is bookings@lauropowers.net. But does anyone have any questions that they have for either Jake or Josh, or just in general?
Looks like there's one. It says, what do you think of XRP and XLM? I like to learn more about crypto, but it's more complicated and more onerous than investing in ETFs and stocks. Yeah. So XRP was under a lawsuit from the SEC for unregistered securities filings. I believe it was over $1 billion. There's rumors out there that they're actually going to win the lawsuit. So I think that's why XRP was exploding. It's also one of the older altcoins. It was created in 2013, 2014. The original idea behind it was that it was going to be used by banks because at the time when it was created, Bitcoin moves very slow, right? Transactions are anywhere from 10 minutes to 30 minutes. So they could have this settlement layer transact between the banks. Over time, the banks said that they're not going to use anything. And now we're seeing that most banks are actually going to create their own, called CBDC. From an investing standpoint, it seems like there's a lot of potential. It seems like it likes to go up a lot. So you kind of have to separate it from, am I investing because I want to make money, or am I investing because I like the utility and the team and some of the other aspects to it? In a bull market, everything goes up. I think then you're kind of just like speculate on which goes up more. Right? Dogecoin went up 40,000%, but then you had coins like Axie Infinity and Matic go up 70,000%. So it really just depends on kind of like, are you going in intentionally for the money or for some sort of other utility? I learned that we have to secure my crypto investment with a crypto wallet off the web, more work and more research before jumping in. Yeah. Yes. Oh, God.
Yeah, just that storage piece, that it's important. And if you're in an exchange, that it be decentralized and non-custodial, or that you have like a cold wallet, the offline storage. Yeah, it's a complex world, and anyone who's been in the space a long time has at some point lost crypto because they lost their those seed phrases, or they lost their wallet. There's that man I think he's in the UK, where he lost I think it's hundreds of millions of Bitcoin because it was on a laptop, and he threw it away. And he, that was at the point where Bitcoin wasn't worth that much, but then it was, and he literally tried to hire people to go through the landfill to find this laptop. Anyway, it's a thing. And it is important to educate yourself on the different options and see what is good for you. But I will say phrase that is spoken within the film world. If you don't have your footage in the new places, you don't have your footage, meaning like don't have your seed phrase just in one place.
True.
There's actually the same quote in crypto is not your keys, not your coins.
Yeah, exactly. Because, you know, you lose that, that's it. There's no way to get that back, at least at this point.
And we've seen something similar in the NFT space where there's something called a shared contract where you can mint NFTs through OpenSea for free. It's called lazy minting, but OpenSea actually controls part of that contract rather than deploying your own contract and minting your own work. OpenSea actually went through under the direction of the US government to start deleting any sort of NFTs minted through the OpenSea store with Iranian and Russian IPs. So they just literally started deleting.
That's exactly what I'm talking
contracts.
about, where, you know, if you're on just one platform and they just decide something, like, dang, that's pretty crazy.
It's too bad.
And so if you deploy in the NFT space, the equivalent of having your own keys is deploying your own contract, because then you can control what's being minted through that as well. But if you're starting out new, if you're in America, start at Coinbase. They do custody your assets. They've never been hacked. They're a publicly traded company. So they are backed. Also, they have an insurance behind it. So if something does happen, then the banks will insure your deposit. That's the best way to start. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you want to custody your own assets. For something like a hardware wallet, which is, it's called Ledger, is the most popular. It looks like a USB.
Yeah, and there's some pretty major stuff happening in this space, like Jake just mentioned, Ukraine adopting Bitcoin. That's a pretty big deal. The other thing I just read was, for example, that Ethereum is going off of mining into proof of stake. And I remember I was talking with Christian about this, and like, can you, Jake, I think you know probably more out of all of us about that. Can you just briefly explain that? Because that's a really big deal.
Yeah, this has been ongoing for 5 years now. So Bitcoin works off of what's called proof of work, which goes through a mining protocol, which means you have to dedicate computer power to verify transactions. It's very energy intensive. So then you get into the propaganda of like global warming and climate change. But although Bitcoin now has surpassed over 50% renewables, which is about double the leading country in terms of renewable resources, we can't have all of the protocols using proof of work. It would just never work. And also for Ethereum, if you want to optimize speed and efficiency, you have to move to a proof of stake model, which means there is no mining. You have a set amount of coins that exist, and then you create what's called a throughput, where then you could process more transactions per second comparative to now. I think with Ethereum, I think it processes a few hundred transactions per second. But now this is what congests the gas fees. So if there's only 200, I'm just gonna use an arbitrary number. If there's only 100 transactions per block per second, but then you have 10,000 people trying to transact within 10 seconds, it becomes like an auction system where it's like whoever wants to pay more to the miners will get their transaction put into the block. And so then people are paying literally hundreds, or I've seen thousands of dollars to put the transaction through. And the reason for that's mostly speculation and trading. But Ethereum is going to be moving off of proof of work to proof of stake. This will be the first cryptocurrency ever to do this. It's been about a 5-year testing trial, and it's supposed to happen sometime this summer. It was supposed to happen in 2020, supposed to happen in 2021. We'll hope it happens at some point this time. The team has been working out very diligent on it. Everyone's looking forward to this. It could eliminate the gas fees, which has been the biggest hindrance for adoption for Ethereum.
Yeah, I mean, it stopped me from buying NFTs where I go and I'd be like, oh my God, the gas fees are like 3 times the value of whatever I'm trying to buy. I'm like, well, it just starts to feel a little bit insane. So yeah, so much here. Again, trying not to overwhelm people in terms of the technical side. You know, as you dive in, you learn. I really feel that sometimes when we feel that overwhelm, it's because we're learning a lot, and people like get into that overwhelm and they shut down and they decide, oh, that's too much. But don't dive in. I first heard about Bitcoin early on, and I think it was like 2012 or 2013, but I just didn't know how to do it. Didn't know how to get in. I didn't have technical people in my life at that point. And I waited, and I did end up buying in 2016. But by that point, you know, major difference if you invested in like 2012 or 2013 versus 2016. So what I learned from that is why I'm really diving into NFTs faster now, because I'm like, even though I don't know some of this stuff, it's like connect, learn, network, figure it out, because what you don't know is a loss to you in this space, especially because it's shifting so fast. So I know we didn't have time for all the questions, but I just want to, oh yeah, go for it.
I was going to answer the last one. It says, do you know whether
Yeah.
each exchange is reliable? Is it licensed to trade XRP? No United States exchange is licensed to sell XRP until the lawsuit has been completed. So you have to go to an offshore place, or you can use a VPN, so that, because all of US IP is geofenced from trading XRP until the lawsuit has been completed.
But it is going up, and it does seem like it may end up in XRP's favor. Most people that I know that are serious crypto traders are using VPNs. So we'll just say that. Not giving advice here, but just saying that is something that I noticed. Sarah, one last question, and then we'll wrap up.
Sure. I'm definitely feeling over my head, and I would just love some advice on where to start. Like, so I'm an artist, I'm definitely going to make NFTs, I'm definitely going to invest, but I don't even know where to begin research. So can you guys recommend, like, where would you go to learn the basics about, starting to invest in Coinbase or something? Bitcoin,
Yeah.
I don't know.
My suggestions would be OpenSea is the biggest marketplace. So OPENSEA, biggest marketplace in the world. It's like the entire NFT place is shopping at one Walmart. In terms of news, that's very friendly. NFTnow.com. That's more, they're very friendly. There's podcasts. You can search the people who created it. It's very credible. From an artist standpoint, I'll let them talk about it. I'm uncertain on the artist standpoint.
Yeah, Josh, do you want to just briefly address that from the artist standpoint?
So what we've been using, and OpenSea and all that, we love that. But there's a whole bunch of other platforms. We use Atomic Hub, and that is based off of WaxP. And so I feel like that has been, mainly because of the gas fees, we look towards other platforms, and Atomic Hub was one that the gas fees were like nothing. And there were so many different ways to write a smart contract through that. And so that's kind of what we've been diving into and learning more about. Yeah.
Our first, and I'm so sorry, you guys, that my kids, like, we tag team all day long, and we're like trying to run a business and like
totally fine.
I'm so sorry. But OpenSea is a great place to start. And now they have Polygon, which is no gas fee. And you can do it on that network. That's a great place. I like to think of it as like a beginner because it's so straightforward. And then if you want to like start diving in a little bit deeper on like how to, because with Atomic Hub, you can go to Nifty blocks and like make rules and be like, only one person can claim this at this time, and I want it to drop on this day. And just fun things like that. Or you can do blends, like if you get this NFT and this NFT, you can blend it and make a new potion or something. Like, so it's just, it kind of, with Sarah, I think your art is very fine art, right? Like ones of one. And I think that is more geared to like OpenSea, probably.
Yeah.
Or now there's platforms popping up all over that are like, hey, we'll do a white glove service. Like, you get to do your art and we'll do your minting, and we walk you through the whole process.
Yeah, there's so many options out there. And Sarah, I would just say, just learn, again, just connect, also these kind of connections with connecting with Jake and Heidi and Josh are so valuable, where you can just like ask someone who's in the space, hey, what do you suggest? This is so great. And if you do want to learn more about this, my 12-week NFT and crypto course is really helpful. So if you're listening, just consider that, because it is very rare to be able to connect with so many experts. And the more you know, the less scary and intense it gets, just period as a whole. And also, I realized we didn't talk about what a gas fee is. So in case you don't know, I just want to briefly explain that. I had the funniest exchange. I was actually in Mexico. Jake, I know you just got back from Mexico, and I was in line and somehow there's a woman who was standing next to me was a financial planner, and I asked if she was into crypto at all, and then we started talking about that, and I said, oh, the gas fees are crazy, and her friend was like, oh my god, every time I fill up the tank, it's like, that's what you think when you think gas. If you're not in the space, is literally like petroleum. Gas is the term for the fees that you have to pay within crypto in order to fund the transaction. So just like you have to fill up gas for your car, that's where you need to, pay to get from A to Z. It's kind of similar in the crypto space, but it's just called gas. It has nothing to do with petroleum. Oh my gosh. Well, this is so fun. Well, I just want to thank all of you for participating and sharing your knowledge. And just in closing, anything that you guys want to say, and then we'll wrap up.
The crypto space is the wild, wild west, but there is an opportunity for everybody, whether you're somebody who likes to invest and collect, you're somebody who likes to create art, you're a podcaster who wants to monetize your creation without having to do it through OpenSea or through YouTube. There's so many different options. Just really explore. Twitter, Discord, and podcast, your three primary sources of information. YouTube is good, but there are a lot of shillers on there, people who are paid to tell you what to invest in. So just make sure you go into OpenSea, or you go into YouTube with an open mind. Look past the videos of this NFT is going 1000x, and look more for the how-to tutorials on YouTube.
And also, you guys, you have to be so cautious within this space because there are so many charlatans, scammers out there. I see this all the time. So Blockchain Wayne, is a friend of mine. He hosts the Miami Crypto Experience. And this is something that happened where someone created, a fake account from his Facebook, and then it was a scam where they were basically like, send your crypto here and we'll double it. And so how valuable it is to be able to be like, reach out to your people in this community and be like, hey, is this legit or not? Because there are things like airdrops where you'll suddenly just get like free crypto or free NFTs that can later be very valuable, but you have to know whether it's a legitimate thing or whether it's just a scam, because there's so many scams out there. So that's my biggest piece of advice. Go in with eyes and ears open and educate yourself, and don't trust too soon. Another friend of mine lost like 40,000 in Bitcoin through, it was essentially a scam where she was trying to transfer money to one thing and they just took her crypto. So, or one of the big ones that got a lot of press this year was the Squid Game show, and they suddenly released a Squid Game coin, which was one way, meaning you could never sell it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So it went up to, I think it was like $3,000 a coin in like a day, you guys, in like a day. And the people that bought that's just money gone, never can access it. Whoever created that, they took all that money. So, gain your community, network, connect. You may feel like you're a newbie now, but you will learn quickly. And just, if you don't know something, just ask the people that you feel like you know and trust in your crypto and NFT community. Josh and Heidi, anything else you'd like to share in closing?
Anything else?
I'm just so thankful for this space because it is the future. It's definitely where our world is going. And if you're at this call, you're listening to this podcast, like you're in the future, which means like you have a responsibility. So let's all just take care of each other. And I feel like that's what the new world is supposed to be, is with crypto. Like everything is transparent, almost everything, mostly everything. But like if you're not sure, like don't have FOMO, because that'll always get you into trouble. But like Laura said, like reach out to people that you trust, because this is the world that we're building, is technology and trust.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you. And Stella in the chat says, will you consider hosting something else? So my class is exactly what this is for, because it's 12 weeks. With each week, there's a different guest speaker where we have these kind of things where you can ask personal questions as well as they will present their knowledge. And then I continue to host panels. So I'm already working on another panel that's on women, wealth, and crypto. So just stay in touch with me. If you haven't, you can join my email list or reach out to me. It's bookings@lauropowers.net. So I host these free things. My podcast is called Powers Hour podcast, and that's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. So I post a lot there. So that's another great avenue to continue to learn and connect. All right. Well, thank you for your time. I so appreciate you, Jake and Josh and Heidi, for connecting.
Thank
I'm
you.
so sorry about
Thank
the
you.
burnout, too.
That is totally fine. You guys are amazing. Very grateful. And I look forward to connecting and hopefully seeing you guys at some real and metaverse events in the future. Thanks, everyone. Many blessings. Thanks for listening. Have a
Thank
good
you
day.
guys.
Take
Have
care.
a good day. See you.